Good morning to all of our participants. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the session on Resource for Students. For those of you not familiar with Irena, we are an intergovernmental agency mandated by countries around the world to promote the widespread and sustainable use of all forms of renewable energy. Irena has 140 members and 32 states in the process of becoming members. In January 2015, Irena launched an online knowledge platform called Resource, which enables public and free access to all Irena renewable energy information and data. By linking to Irena's vast knowledge base, Resource provides relevant, reliable, and timely information on renewable energy market statistics, potentials, policies, finance, technology costs and benefits, innovations, as well as information on education. Today's webinar will demonstrate how you can create and extract graphs and statistics from Resource to be used in essays and presentations, how to find trusted and peer-reviewed publications for your research, and explore renewable energy information by country or by region. Before we begin, we would like to share a quick note that Irena does not endorse or recommend specific products or services shared within its webinar series. Information in this webinar is featured in the Irena Renewable Energy Learning Partnership database as just one of many best practice case studies. If you are interested in finding out about future webinars offered through the Irena webinar series or are interested in further renewable energy learning opportunities, please visit the Irena Renewable Energy Learning Partnership website, and you can see the link below on your screen. Here you will find our courses database, which has information on short and long-term education opportunities all around the world, our internship database with up-to-date job postings to help you get started with your renewable energy career, as well as our webinars database to help you keep afloat on current trends and developments in the sector. We also invite you to sign up for our weekly newsletter to receive regular updates on courses, webinars, and internship opportunities. For today's webinar, we have two options for listening in. You may connect by computer by selecting mic and speakers, or by phone by selecting the telephone option in the right-hand panel. If you should face any technical difficulties during the webinar, please contact the GoToWebinar help desk at the number provided on your screen. I would like to encourage everyone to participate in today's session by asking questions. To do so, simply select the questions panel in the right-hand bar and enter your question with a note of who you would like it asked to. We will be collecting questions throughout the session. If you would like to watch this webinar again or to share it with a friend, we will have a full recording available on the IRELP website as well as on the Irena YouTube channel. If we are not able to answer all of your questions during today's session and you wish to connect with our panelists, I encourage you to visit the Irena Community, and you'll see the link on the bottom of your screen there, and join the resource discussion which you can find under featured topics, and we will circulate that link to you following the close of this session. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists for today. Our first speaker will be my colleague, Stephanie Weckend, who is an Associate Program Officer for Data and Information at Irena. Since January 2014, she has been working in Irena's Knowledge Unit, where she focuses on data and information management. Her activities include the Knowledge Gateway, data dissemination, and statistical analysis. Previously, she worked for the Canadian-German Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Montreal, where she was the Managing Director of the Regional Office for Quebec and Eastern Canada. And second, we will be hearing from Jose Echeverri, who is an Associate Professor in the Faculty of Environmental Studies at York University and the co-chair of the Sustainable Energy Initiative. After obtaining his PhD at the University of Toronto, where he specialized on hybrid renewable energy systems, he became focused on developing the Sustainable Energy Initiative at York University. The SEI is a research and training organization that includes York University, the Toronto Region and Conservation Authority, and leading international organizations. Dr. Echeverri's current research is centered on climate change mitigation and renewable energy policies with a focus on practical policy solutions, collaborative approaches, and effective communication strategies. Jose is also a founding member of the IRELP Partnership and the RET Screen International Training Institute. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar, and with that I would like to hand the floor to our first speaker, Stephanie, who will be giving us a live demonstration of how to use Resource.
So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, to everyone. I'm delighted to be presenting today to all of you Irena's new knowledge platform on renewable energy that we call Resource. As Stephanie mentioned in her introduction, we launched the platform this January, so 3 months ago at our General Assembly of Irena. And since then we received quite a lot of feedback and also ideas on how we can further deepen our analysis and share renewable energy knowledge worldwide. So we are looking forward to all your questions and also all your input regarding how we can improve Resource, but also if you have any suggestions or ideas when it comes to additional content that can be featured in Resource, we are very excited to hear back from you. So I will walk you through the platform itself and show you the different functionalities of Resource. I will make that in 3 steps. So as you can see on your screen, this is the landing page of Resource itself. You can access the platform by typing in your browsers www.irena.org/resource, and that will get you to the landing page itself. Resource itself has 3 different functionalities. The first one is a simple search. The second one is a country profile section where you will find information on any country in the world when it comes to renewable energy. And the last one is the data and statistics section. So I will walk you first through the search functionality itself. So as you can see, we have a renewable energy button here where you can see all the 6 different major renewable energy technologies. But as you know, we even have, let's say, more specific sub-technologies available. So for instance, if you're interested in solar energy, but you are specifically interested in solar photovoltaic, you can type in your query solar photovoltaic in the search engine, and then it will give you the specific results and the specific research and analysis that Irena did on the topic of solar photovoltaics. So when you look at the screen and the page in front of you now, you will see that it resembles Google. We try to make it quite easy and user-friendly for our different or variety of users. As you might know, Irena addresses a lot governments, but also the private sector, but also academia and students like yourself. You will see here a different variety of results that are all related, again, as I mentioned, to solar photovoltaics. You can filter that by the different initiatives that Irena has. So this is what we call the resources, the sources. My colleague Stephanie mentioned in her introduction the Renewable Energy Learning Partnership, for instance, but Irena has a lot more initiatives when it comes to knowledge sharing in renewables too. So as the sources here explain or are self-explanatory, we have, for instance, resource mapping, which is the global atlas. We have work on costing. We have work on socioeconomic value of renewable energy, so that is what we consider anything related to job creation, for instance. We also have information related to a fund that we are hosting for different renewable energy projects. And then lastly, and that is probably quite of a lot of interest to you too, our Remap 2030 scenario work, which is basically related to the UN Sustainable Energy for All initiative, where Irena plays a significant role as a renewable energy knowledge hub. And by 2030, the international community wants to double the share of renewable energy in the world. And the Remap 2030 is basically a scenario that Irena has been putting in place to make sure that the goals are achieved. So when it comes to the filters that we have on the left side, you can also filter by additional technology. You can filter by countries. You can also filter by the year. So let's say you're interested in seeing and viewing what Irena did in solar photovoltaic in the year 2014. You can filter simply by the year 2014, and you will see all the additional publication and information related to solar photovoltaic. Let's type in another query, another example. One of the technologies that Irena is currently working a lot in is the sector of bioenergy. Probably the renewable energy technology that is still the most difficult to analyze, specifically in particular regions in the world such as Africa or South America. So when it comes to this technology, specifically Irena is looking a lot on what is happening in the biomass sector. So you can see here that we are doing a lot of work when it comes to seeing what are the costs involved when it comes to biomass, but also when it comes to the remap work that we're doing, so the scenarios until 2030 to fulfill the sustainable energy for all goals. You will see also that we have information when it comes to jobs on biomass, etc. Irena is not only working with the different renewable energy technologies, but has also initiated different initiatives when it comes to renewable energy, specifically regional initiatives. So one example that you might not be aware of is an initiative that we call Pacific Lighthouses. So that is dedicated to Pacific Islands and to showcase how they, especially in remote areas and when it comes to islands, they can benefit from off-grid renewable energy solutions. So we're going to type in the search engine Pacific Lighthouses. And you will see that the content appears that Irena has dedicated to Pacific Lighthouses. As you will see from the different publications shown here, we have specific information related to each of the different countries in the Pacific, or when it comes to Pacific Islands. And that brings us to the second functionality of resource, namely the country profiles. So one example here on your screen, you see that we have a publication on Pacific Lighthouses for Fiji. So let's type in Fiji in the search engine itself, and you will see that there is a country profile page that resource also makes available to you on Fiji. So for the country profile page itself, you will see on the left-hand side a map, and on the top bar also a short overview what is the installed renewable energy capacity in Fiji itself. You can play with the data and statistics section, for instance, by highlighting one or several technologies and see how the renewable energy capacity changes. I mentioned before our Global Atlas initiative, which is basically the resource mapping in a given country. So for instance, in this case for Fiji, you have quite a comprehensive map showing you the potential for solar radiation or wind speed in the Pacific countries. We have tried to make the country profile page user-friendly by adding thematic tabs related to specific content that Irena hosts in-house. So the first tab, as I just mentioned, is related to resource assessment, but we also have information on the overall energy sector in Fiji, the policy and legal framework, the financial aspects in the country or the region itself, and then again the Remap 20 scenario if we have information on that given country. So you'll be able to click here on the map to go to another country profile on any given country. So let's move from the Pacific to South America, and for instance let's click on Chile, which had quite an interesting development in the last year due to new governmental incentives and the policy frameworks. Again, here you will see that there is a lot more news when it comes on the right section. You will see when it comes to the country itself, a lot more projects that are being built specifically in the solar and the wind energy sector. So again, the same principle. You'll find information according to the thematic tabs in the country profile itself. I might just draw your attention under the policy tab, for instance. You will see that we also host our joint policies and measures database with the International Energy Agency. So here you will find all the necessary information when it comes to the regulations or the policies of renewable energies in a given country. So in the specific case of Chile, you'll see quite a lot of policies in place. So that might be quite interesting also for your analysis. And I was speaking, or I was mentioning before, a law that made Chile quite respectable on the renewable energy map, and this is the renewable energy law here that I'm highlighting that was updated end of 2013 to include a lot more renewable energy targets. Let's take one last example in Africa to also show that even in countries that renewable energy information is still quite difficult to grasp, Irena is trying its best to find and to also display the most available information. So here I opened the map. So that's another functionality to go from one country to another. You can look for the country, for instance, of Ethiopia. Click on Ethiopia, and then here again the country profile page of Ethiopia will open. You will again see different maps for the countries, information related to the energy sector, to the policy framework. You will see that specifically for Ethiopia we have quite a lot of information also when it comes to costing. So our costing team did quite an elaborate analysis also in the region of Africa, and the Remap 2030 scenarios. So how Ethiopia will develop or could develop with different policy scenarios until 2030. So this is the second functionality of resource. Now we will be going to the third functionality of resource, which is the data and statistics page itself. So you can access this by clicking on the left navigation button that looks like a little chart. And then you will see here that a new window opens with different numbers and charts available to you. So far, Irena has made available on resource 4 different topical, that's what we call dashboards or data and statistics section. One that is related to renewable power capacity, one that is related to renewable energy education, the next one to jobs and employment in the sector, and the last one to costs, or specifically levelized cost of electricity. We are working on many more dashboards or data and statistics views in the moment, and this will be updated as soon as new information becomes available also to us. So I will walk you one by one through the different topics, just so you get a feeling also what kind of numbers you can find in resource, and that might be also of interest for your research or for your papers that you're writing, or even for the specific countries you are actually in when it comes to renewable energy. So the first dashboard is the power capacity dashboard. So that gives you quite a good indication on how the renewable energy sector looks like in a given country or a given region. We have already available some countries and some technologies for 2014. So those of you who have worked with renewable energy data before might know that data is always quite difficult to get for the previous year, especially when it comes to the bioenergy sector. For the solar and the wind or geothermal or hydro sector, it's a little bit easier, but we try to make available to you already the data that we have. So if we take an example, for instance, you will see on the landing page here the evolution of solar PV in the country of Japan. You can play and please feel free to do the same if you're live also on resource itself with any country that you are actually in. Filter by different countries, for instance. So if you want to see the evolution, for instance, we didn't talk about Asia yet. So of Korea, for instance, you will see that there has been quite significant growth, especially since the year 2008, 2009, due to the related policy framework set in place there. You can also play here with the different level of detail. So this is the cumulative capacity, so all the capacity that is installed in the country. You can also see what has been added net to the country itself. So 2014 here has been quite a significant growth year. But you can also look at other countries and other technologies. So let's take, for instance, the example of Brazil. And then let's look how Brazil did in the solid biomass sector. You will see here that this is quite an interesting timeline that you see when it comes to biomass in Brazil. So this is for the first tab that we have here. But when it comes to power capacity, you also have different visualizations. So we would encourage you to also play a little bit more with the specific information that we have online. We have all the data sets for all the technologies and all the countries available for the years 2000 to 2013. And then here again, we can play with the filters and select any region in the world, for instance, Central America and the Caribbean. Choose a specific country, such as Costa Rica, and then see the evolution over time on the different renewable energy technologies. So here we made the effort not only to look at the 6 different technologies, remember the ones that I showed you also on the landing page, but we're even going down in the analysis to the different sub-technologies itself. So for Costa Rica, for instance, if we look at solar photovoltaic, you will see that there is not a lot of change, and there was nothing or no information or no installations before the year 2012. You can go on any other region or any other country in the graph and choose different kind of scenarios. So here, for instance, you will see the evolution in the Middle East, and I chose Jordan, where there seems to be a little bit more of an interesting evolution when it comes to installed solar PV. I will not go through all the different tabs on top. I will let you play with them yourself. One specific visualization that I wanted to draw your attention to is the country rankings. That gives you quite a good overview also on where different countries stand or different regions stand. So from a region perspective, you will see that, for instance, if we go to Asia, that you have China as #1, India as #2, and Japan as #3. There might be not a big surprise there for you, but you will also see the top other 10 Asian countries when it comes to renewable energy leadership. You can also filter by megawatt or gigawatt, so that depends up in your preference. And then here again, you can choose a sub-technology or technology. So let's say you're interested to see who is the leader in wind energy in all the regions, or specifically in this case Asia, you'll see that nothing really changed. But if you choose a different technology, like say tide, wave, and ocean energy, you will see that, for instance, the picture will change quite dramatically. If you want to compare countries, and that's a question we got quite a lot from different analysts, but also students, There's a visualization option where you can compare specific countries between each other. So very simply, you just go on the filtered country, you deselect all, and then you just choose the countries that you want to select. So let's select, for instance, Bangladesh and Brazil. And then you will see here quite a good comparison between these two countries. And you will see that Brazil has quite a lot more renewable energy installed than Bangladesh. So that gives you a good indication also when you compare countries and compare different values. So let's move on to the second dashboard, the dashboard on renewable energy education. As mentioned before, the underlying data that we draw from is the Renewable Energy Learning Partnership, IRELP in short, that is done also by my colleague Stephanie, who gave you the introduction before. Here it gives you quite a good overview on renewable energy courses offered by region. A lot of you must know that specifically in Europe and followed by North America, there are already a lot of renewable energy courses offered, but you can also see which kind of topics have been promoted the most when it comes to renewable energy education. So here, multi-technology is the most dominant. Multi-technology for us refers to general renewable energy classes or courses or programs that are not related to a specific technology, but that comprise more than one technology, so up to 2 technologies. Followed by solar energy and then wind energy. If you're interested in looking at how education looks like in your specific country, you can also select courses by countries. When you are in renewable energy, Germany is definitely one of the leaders when it comes to renewable energy courses. So let's take the example of Germany here. You will see that similar to the first overview I showed you, multi-technology leads, followed by solar energy and wind energy. But please keep that in mind because we're going to move to the next dashboard, so the employment dashboard, where you will see the figures of employment by country, and I will show you how Germany features there. And quite interestingly enough, you will see that Germany here offers or has more jobs in the wind sector than in the solar PV sector. So that's quite interesting when you look also at the renewable energy gap between these two countries and see that between the two socioeconomic indicators such as education and employment, there's such a big difference. So I don't know if you saw my screen before. So here you will see the renewable energy employment by Germany, and as I mentioned before, heavily predominant the wind energy industry, followed by the solar PV industry and solid biomass. But you can view any other country. We talked a little bit about Brazil before, and the bioenergy sector. As you can see from the graph in front of your screen, liquid biofuels predominantly dominates in the employment sector there. Let's look at one other country before we move to the last dashboard. Quite an interesting case was, for instance, the country of Bangladesh, where in the last 2 years a lot of incentives were made by the government to install solar PV. So a specific program was developed by the government, and you can see that specifically in Bangladesh this triggered quite a lot of response also regarding employment in the sector. So let's walk through the last dashboard that we have on resource. That's the dashboard related to costs. specifically levelized cost of electricity. In your research or through your studies, you probably came across already the falling prices of renewable energies, specifically in some technologies such as wind and solar PV in the last 3 or 4 years, but also other technologies. So that is very important to keep in mind if you are doing analysis and comparing conventional fossil fuel technologies with newer technologies such as renewable energies. So in that case, or in this first example, you will see the levelized cost of electricity, which is basically the average cost for PV systems or PV installations in specific regions of the world. So if we look at the case of the Middle East, for instance, there's a range of projects that we at Irena analyzed ranging between a minimum of 0.182 US dollar per kilowatt hour to 0.395 US dollar per kilowatt hour, and that shows you or gives you an average then with a lot of projects that we considered in our analytical work of 0.210 US dollar per kilowatt hour. Quite interesting enough, and that's definitely something that we also keep in mind in our daily work, is the comparison of the levelized cost of electricity for PV in the different regions. So you will see that there are still quite significant differences when it comes to solar PV, but if you, for instance, look at other technologies such as onshore wind, you will see that the differences are even a little bit higher. So depending on the region or the country you are in, the costs of installation or of renewable energy will differ quite significantly. You can also choose renewable energy by technology in the same dashboard. So let's take here for instance the example of Europe, and then here you can see quite a good overview on which technologies have had quite a significant drop when it comes to levelized cost of electricity, or which are the most economic for a specific region. So here, this is the case of the OECD Europe, but for instance, you can also look at continents such as Africa, where you will see that the levelized cost of electricity differs quite significantly from the one that we just saw for Europe. So this is it from my end. One last, perhaps a helpful tip also, how to use these statistics in your work. We have been able to install also a download functionality of all the graphs that you can customize yourself. So you can download them either by PDF or by image and use them in your reports or PowerPoint presentations. There's also a different option where you can actually even share the link. So if you want to share that with your friends or professors or colleagues, this is also available. When it comes to academia and research, one of the most important points is also to look at the different methodologies and the different analytical framework that lies behind all the different numbers and statistics that Irena has made. So the assumptions basically, so you'll find on the bottom right a methodology link where you can view quite a comprehensive list of assumptions, but also models that we used to basically publish these numbers. So that's it from the resource technical presentation side. Thank you very much. We hope that you're going to use the tool. And I will hand it back to Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that great demonstration. And now we're going to be hearing from Jose Echeverry, who we're very lucky to have with us today. And we're hoping he can provide maybe some helpful insights on how academia might benefit from using resource, and in particular how students with us today could make use of this tool. So Jose, you have the floor.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's a pleasure to be with you. This is a very powerful resource. As Stephanie has demonstrated, it has huge potential for a number of applications. So I want to provide you with a few reflections on what this can do both for you at a personal basis and also for social benefits that this can also do. So when you think about it from the personal perspective, obviously by becoming more skilled and developing a greater knowledge base, your CV will become better. You will have experience that will be needed for the future jobs that you will be doing. So it's an excellent tool for you to develop your personal skill capacity, make better research, get better grades on your courses. But then there's also the social implications of the benefits that this research can produce. And those social benefits have to do with making society better, protecting the environment by focusing how to make renewable energy work better for society. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So of course a database can be used for gaining background information. That's the first step, sort of the more basic level of using these resource. But when you start going a little deeper on the use of this information, you can start doing things that are very useful for society. So for example, you can use the resources that Stephanie showed to find gaps of knowledge. Let me give you a specific example. Stephanie spoke about Fiji, the country profiles of Fiji, talked about the Pacific lighthouses. She also spoke about other countries, Chile, Brazil. So using this database, you may be able to find a very important gap of knowledge that requires significant further research to be able to improve the understanding of renewable energy in a place like Fiji or Brazil or wherever you live. And once you find that gap in knowledge, for example, you may find that there is too little information about wind power, or as Stephanie mentioned earlier, biotechnology is an area where there's a lot of need to have additional information on. Well, these gaps of knowledge that you identify using this database will allow you to be able to conduct further research, and this may help you prepare for graduate level work, either at the master's or PhD level. So not only if you're an undergraduate or a technical student, you can make better research, but you can also contribute to society by beginning to plan research that it's needed, that you, using this database, you can prove to your readers, to your research recipients, that there is a gap of knowledge that needs to be fulfilled by you. So that's one area that I wanted to mention. The other one has to do with, Stephanie spoke at the very end about the assumptions and the methodological basis that have been employed to create a lot of these databases that are extremely strong. And once you become very skilled on renewable energy and other topics, you may be able to understand that some of the assumptions made or the methodological basis could be improved in manners that you know, I don't want to discuss right now, but that's where the gaps of knowledge analysis that I explained earlier would help you, and you can then start even contributing directly to Irena to improve the database itself, but also in more pragmatic manners to make change possible in your own society wherever you live. So the last thing I want to say about this, if I may, has to do with what we call in research data triangulation. And by data triangulation, what we mean is that we're using a technique that sailors use. You know, when you're sailing a boat, you need to know where you're going, and you use different data points to be able to calibrate your position in the present to know where you're going to go next, you see, in the future. So clearly this database resource is a huge source for data triangulation. Another important source would be the peer review journals, right? We use the peer review journals to understand what is the best information on a specific topic to be able to conduct research. And we do that, and all of you listening to this use this technique to do, for example, literature reviews. Another data triangulation source that would be complementary would be attending conferences. And of course, another one would be to actually do research yourself that would create empirical data. And once you have your own information, let's say, for example, you are interested in solar and you install a solar system in your school or in your home, and you begin to understand how it behaves on the specific place, or you may design systems that improve solar equipment. It doesn't matter what it is that we're discussing. With this technique of data triangulation, you can use a resource database to understand what's going on in your country, in your city, in your region, in your continent. And then you can use these other data sources, the peer review literature, the data that you're generating. You can present in a conference or attend a conference, and then you'll be in a very strong position. And this brings me back to my original point. With information, you can make your own personal situation better. You can enrich your CV. You can have then strong background that will allow you to get very good jobs later on in life. And also, most importantly, I think is this social aspect of all of this, of making society a better place. Renewable energy helps to create employment, to protect the environment, and you will be in a very good position if you become skilled with these renewable energy sources to become a person that helps make your society better. So I'm going to stop at that to give people the opportunity to ask questions. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Jose. I think that was a huge help to everyone who's listening in. So now we're going to open the floor for questions. So our first question is coming from Anne, who is wondering what other information is going to be made available in the future on resource. So I'll give this question to Stephanie.
So as mentioned a little bit before, resource reflects the knowledge also that Irena hosts, and Irena is current, or Irena currently has. In the future, we're working on numerous additional publications in different technologies, but also for different topics. So just to mention a couple of them is, for instance, marine energy, geothermal energy, bioenergy, as these are still technologies that are a little bit less understood than, let's say, hydropower, solar, and wind energy. But we're also working on specific topics that are related, for instance, to storage, to the end-use sector. So you will have seen that the dashboard that we have, especially for the capacity one, are very much related to the power sector. So we're working a lot also on making sure that we're becoming more transparent on renewable energy use in the heat and transport sector, for instance. And then perhaps one last topic in the data and statistics section that we're working a lot on is related to also the modeling and making the REMAP 2030 scenarios a little bit better visually available to the external public.
Great, thank you for that. So our next question will be for Jose. We have Mark wondering how he can use resource for his research, and wondering how he would go about citing this as a source. So Jose, you have the floor.
Okay, so thanks for that question, Mark. And I guess your question has two implications. In the one hand, the most simple one is how to reference it. And what I like about the IRENA resources, many of the papers that they produce, they have a reference in styles suggested, and a lot of the other organizations that produce knowledge, for example, REN21, will provide you with a way to reference directly into the source itself. But I think your question goes a little deeper than that, and it's to do with how you can actually use this information. So I'm sure you just didn't want to know how to reference. You want to know how to actually be able to provide you know, a deeper analysis of the information you're using. So basically what I was saying earlier is that the most important thing here is to be able to use this information first when you're starting in your education. It's to gain background knowledge. And what IRENA has done with this resource, it's very big because it's creating a huge, very versatile database that allow all of us to be on the same page in regards to knowledge. So it's like we all have now a common slate to be able to do research from. But then where it gets more interesting once you gain knowledge, and I think that goes to your question, Mark, is that then we can find these gaps of knowledge where research needs to be done. And if you identify for one specific area, a country, a specific country as, or a technology, as Stephanie just said, for example, she said that marine technologies and storage require more information. Well, you can use the database in combination to the peer review literature to show that more work needs to be done, more research work needs to be done on a specific area like marine technologies. And you yourself can become a specialist in that area, knowing that there is a gap knowledge, which will mean, in the one hand, that your research will be useful, and on the other one, that you actually have a contribution to make to society.
Thanks very much, Jose. So our next question is coming from Lemu, who's currently studying his master's in science in Ethiopia, and he's looking for renewable energy education opportunities abroad. So Lemu, I would direct you to either resource or directly to the IRENA Renewable Energy Learning Partnership to find information there. So you can find courses in both of these sources. All of the IRELP database is in resource. And there you'll find everything from short-term courses that might be 2 or 3 days in professional development or vocational training to bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs offered all around the world. So I hope that will be useful for you, and please feel free to contact us if you need any further information. We just had another question as well, which relates to education. Someone wondering if IRENA currently offers any online certificate which can be shown to future employers. We don't currently, but you can also look through IRELP and you can see all that information through resource. And we offer many records of online certificates that are offered through other training institutes. So it's worth taking a look through that. So our next question is coming from Samson, who is wondering if it's possible to download CVS or Excel files from resource in order to do further analysis beyond what Irena has already done. So Stephanie, I'll give this question to you.
Thank you for the question. Actually, it's an excellent question because that's an internal debate that we have currently also within Irena. So the goal is to have that information also in Excel format made available to you by end of the year. We are just working still in-house to make sure that we are not violating any confidentiality agreements that we have with our partners that also supply us with data and statistics related to that. But as mentioned before, the goal is to have all the raw data also made available in Excel format to all external users.
Thank you very much. So our next question is coming from Amanda, who's wondering if Resource has any information on hydrocarbons, conventional energy sources, if there's any data there, perhaps maybe for the sake of comparing between conventional sources and renewable energy technologies. And then also wondering if there's any information on Resource about the environmental impacts of traditional energy sources, hydrocarbons. So I'll give this to Stephanie as well.
Thank you very much. This is again an excellent question. So one of the data dashboards that we're currently working on is a data dashboard showcasing the energy balances of the different countries. So that means showing the renewable energy component in the overall energy mix. That will then also showcase or be an improved analysis of, in a given country, how does renewable energy deployment compare to fossil fuel deployment. So that's something that we should have up and running by this summer. Then the second question, when it comes to the environmental impacts and comparison between renewable energy and fossil fuel or conventional energy technologies, we're currently working on 2 different publications that will or that should be able to showcase this a little bit better. And we invite you or encourage you to visit our publications website or also resource in a couple of months again, and then you will be able to find that information more specifically.
Great, thank you. So we just had another question from Aisha regarding education and courses. So they were wondering if there are any courses available on solar desalination. I would again recommend that you look through the IRELP database, and I believe you will find courses on solar desalination, maybe not courses entirely focused on this one topic, but certainly as a subtopic within many courses. So you can look on IRELP for that information. Unfortunately, we're running short of time, so we're just going to take one more question, and I'll remind everyone that you can ask questions that didn't get addressed during this session on the Irena community. We've set up a forum there, and you can be connected with our panelists, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you. So our last question is coming from Lena, who is wondering if we plan to have any information on district heating in the future. So Stephanie.
As mentioned before, the capacity dashboard, so that was the first dashboard that I showed to you in the technical presentation, focuses so far on renewable power capacity. We are collecting statistical information from national statistical offices, also when it comes to renewable energy heat capacity or renewable energy heat overall. And this is something that we will still try to make available also to you this year. The reason is, or the reason that we started with power capacity, and if you are in academia or in research and if you work with numbers, You might know that power is a lot easier to quantify than heat. And so this will be our next challenge, also to put the heating data, including district heating more specifically, online and make available to you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. So before we conclude today, we'd like to ask for your help in completing a very short survey to help us improve our webinar series. So you're going to see 3 questions pop up on your screen, and simply select your choice there. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for your feedback. And before we finish, I would like to say a very big thank you to our panelists who joined us today. So thank you so much, Jose and Stephanie, for those great presentations. I'm sure everyone found that very useful and interesting. So lastly, I would like to invite all of you to join us on social media. So you can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, where you'll be able to find all of our archived webinars in this series, as well as the recording of this webinar following this session. Please join us on the Irena Community, where we're going to be continuing the discussion from today's session, as well as on LinkedIn. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.